Hi, folks. Welcome to osquery Office Hours, second one of 2021. Let's see, announcements, highlights. I'm excited to see GitHub Actions merge. Thank you, Alessandro. So that's pretty cool. Not sure anything else I noticed went by. Other folks?
How's our 4.6? Is it released?
Let's take an agenda item and I'll try and look it up.
Okay.
Okay. Next section is questions, issues, PRs, anything anyone wants to bring up that we're struggling with, curious about, anything.
So back to the GitHub Actions, we were going to talk about the signing pipeline. So just had it explained to me before this meeting that we have a we have the GitHub Actions, but we want to protect signing secrets. And prior to this, I thought there would be a way to keep it in a Cloud HSM and protect it that way. But plan right now, as I understand it, is a separate repo with fewer stakeholders or a smaller committee or something that does the signing step and then pushes back the signed asset to the tagged release on the main repo. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's how it is built right now. Not yet complete, but almost. And for the people having access to that, ideally, it would be nice to have, I was thinking to only give full access to the people who actually own the keys. So that would be Seth for macOS, Teddy for Linux, and Nick for Windows. And then the rest of the TSC would only have like the minimum permissions required to just start the process and get the signed packages published on the osquery tag. But yeah, this is just the initial draft implementation.
So to a first approximation, the TSC are all owners on the GitHub account. So, you can't really block that.
What you mean is they could add themselves to any repo they want?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is correct. The TSC basically is the correct entity to own that. So, broadly speaking, I think this is great. One thing I wasn't sure of, I talked a little bit with Alessandro on this, is that repository is currently flagged as private, which I'm kind of willing to go with for a little while, but I have a strong bias towards making anything we can public. I think it's private just to kind of reduce inadvertent churn and like people poking it or something, as opposed to strict necessity, but I'm not even sure.
Yeah, that was the case.
So I'm pretty happy.
The secrets could still be protected, even if it were a public repo?
Yeah, the secrets for all the actions are usually stored encrypted versus in a key, and you can choose to expose it or not expose it to incoming PRs. I'm sure there's nuance that I haven't figured out yet, but
yeah, in theory they should always be protected. But another reason I ended up using a private repo is that I'd like not to have pull requests against it by outside people that are not supposed to have access to the secrets. So because I'm worried about someone by mistake approving a pull request that might contain code that has a side effect to leak secrets, either because it's a mistake or on purpose. The outcome would be the same. And Yeah, it is why it's not in the osquery repo and why it's a separate private repo.
Because a PR can run the CI workflows, right?
So by default, unless you use a special trigger, the secrets will not be present if the CI is being run from an external pull request. But it will be run once it is merged. And even though we are doing code reviews, that's still considered, in my opinion, untrusted input. Because, I mean, once you leak a key, it's over. It's terrible. So I'm trying to assume the worst possible scenario at any time.
As said, I think I'm on board for starting private, but I do want to think about whether we can eventually move to public. And I think we probably have rope to use here. Like I could imagine writing a GitHub action to just auto close and deny PRs that aren't from, a known set or something. Like there are things we can do.
So right now, the scripts that are in there will make sure that the workers have been merged and are coming from the master branch. We could also limit by username, for example. So yeah, there are things we can do.
Or team or something. You could imagine stuff. I don't want to push that we make this public now, just that we sort of think about that, because I think on a longer arc, there's a lot of people in our community that might like to see what the process is, or might want to reuse these scripts for something else, or I kind of generally believe in being public when we can. But I'm really excited that this is here, so I definitely don't want to be like, no, let's not do anything till we make it harder. So like, let's go with this and make it better.
It's just a hollow process right now because what I'm working on is the workflow you can trigger from the panel along with the scripts to download, unpack the packages locally, and then put them back on the release tag on the osquery repo. But the actual signing logic is not yet there, as I don't know how to write it. So I will have to ask for your help, Teddy's, and Nick's to complete these three parts.
Maybe
but there's always
yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Maybe Charvel as well, but we'll get it figured out.
So yeah.
Can you? I haven't absorbed this repo yet. I'm not sure how many of the processes are sort of manual, where you like download and do a thing and push it back up, versus just entirely within the repository and the Git flow actions. So I'm curious how that's shaping up, because I think we should be able to have actions, even cut a release directly or promote a release to production or manipulate the assets tagged onto the release. So
right now, the script will expect the release to already exist. Mm-hmm. It's not a technical limitation. We can change this. Our reasoning was to, again, limit the scenarios in which this can be called. So there can't be a scenario where someone that can push this can also create a release on the fly. This, of course, depends on the permissions we have, but it's not really granular on GitHub. But we can change this. This is easy. The way it works right now is the workflow, once it is started, it will receive your tag from the input field you have on the GitHub user interface. And it will then start the script that will look up among all the workers that have been run in the past a worker that has completed the run and has generated the artifacts. And then they are downloaded in the working directory according to your platform. At this point, there is a script step that is empty, which is where the logic for the signing should be implemented. The next step would be to call back the Python script that just puts the sign packages on the release tag.
Sounds beautiful.
Wait to look at the Python code.
Nick Anderson, we were talking about the signing pipeline. Don't know if you've had time to see it. I guess you're the person in charge of Windows signing, right?
I am the person in charge of Windows signing. I have not. I saw it come online. Like I saw that I got subscribed to a new repo, so I will spend some time to take a look. But no, I haven't at the moment. Sorry, guys. But yes, that sounds wonderful. I would like very much to have that.
Feel free to change anything that you want. It's just the initial version, so change as you want.
One thing I don't know how much this will end up mattering for osquery, but maybe one question. So for both Windows and Mac OS, the binary needs to be signed and the package needs to be signed. And I don't know, do you know how you want to integrate those yet?
Are you asking Nick or me?
You.
Okay. So I guess that the best approach here is to start with something that works. I know that you're really good at packaging things. You probably have knowledge on how to do this already. The alternative is we have some CMake for a project named Sinter, which is an endpoint security thing for macOS that does have the signing process ready. It's not reusable, it needs to be updated, but what it does is, if I recall correctly, it signs all the binaries, then the packages, and then deals with the notarization.
So I think I'm getting at something else maybe, which is that the code we have to generate the packages is currently in CPAC. So how do we want to go? So if you imagine this code signing process goes and downloads the artifacts out of the CI buckets, which is great, right? And it then signs them. How does it then regenerate the packages? Like, do we just execute CPAC? Are you imagining we'll just write some shell scripts?
I was imagining shell scripts because, as far as I know, the way it was told right now, to do the signing process, we take the packages we have made, unpack them, sign them, and pack them again. That's how I was told it works for the time being.
That sounds familiar to me, but I'm like, if we're going to start by trying to do this, unpacking and repacking feels weird. Like, can we just recall CPAC? Like, I don't know here. Like, if we're basically, taking CPAC, ripping out the binaries and attempting to repack, like, does CPAC get us anything? That's what confuses me.
So I think this was done manually. For the CPAC code we have, of course, it can be changed to support this. Currently, it's not possible, as far as I know. And this ties to one of the reasons this is a separate project. It was to not run any code from the primary public repository. So,
okay.
Which, I mean, on one side, it sucks to implement this differently. On the other side, it makes sense to keep things separated. But yeah, we have to look at the pros and cons of both approaches.
I could also imagine taking moving all the packaging code into into this repo or another repo, so that you end up having the osquery repo just builds binary artifacts, and then some other thing comes along and packs them all. But let's kick that forward.
Yeah, that's another thing I was thinking about. Of course, it means that the packaging process can no longer be placed in a private repository, because otherwise we take away the main packaging logic we have. I mean, I would expect people, customers will probably always want to use signed packages, but I can see people wanting to just use auth upstream, or want to regenerate packages on their own without having to depend on any signing process. So I was trying not to take this away.
Yeah, but I think we can tackle it a little bit at a time, and I think we can eventually have this stuff be public, right? If our biggest fear is people accidentally merging PRs, I think we can create tooling to make that less likely.
By the way, if I can add, right now, you can do a couple of things, and there's also a third thing we can do, but we have to write some code for it. Well, one of it is, again, just creating the packages and then extracting, repacking, as Alessandro was saying. The other is that we can generate TGZ or zip files with binaries, and then you have something else that create packages. Or, yeah, we have to write some CMake logic to do everything. So because right now cpacks do support for macOS packages only the signing with an identity, both for the binaries and the package, though it doesn't support all the rest of more advanced stuff like notarizations and other things. So yeah, so for Windows MSIs, you have to do that manually, in the sense that, again, you have to write some CMake code that runs just before cpack. There are hooks to do that, and then you have to run something after, etc. So immediately, what we can still use the repacking workflow, and also while we can, as Alessandro was saying, while we can write code again for cpack, doing everything again, having it on the main repo, maybe. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I mean, I was also thinking that if we can go towards something that can be shared, and if cpack in the end gets in the way, we can decide even to change that. I mean, I've said this other times, but I'd like to have a single way, possibly, to create packages. Then we can have the sign-in part, which is specific, and so that we can share. We can share everything we can again. Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So sorry, just giving options, but not specifically suggesting anything.
I mean, and I think also to sort of call this out, right? Like, this work is great. I'm really excited to start using it. And I imagine we'll start using it, and then we'll evolve. We'll be like, okay, cool. Now that this is here, let's take another year and finally get rid of the unpack step. So like, it's beautiful. You don't have to do it all.
Two really quick things. One is that I actually have a meeting conflict, so I'm going to have to drop off here in a few minutes. But the second one, I know, sorry, guys. I'll try to be better about being at these. The second one is that I guess I'm not, again, I need to spend a lot more time getting familiar with the packaging pipeline. So sorry if I'm saying stupid, obvious things, but like the Windows version of this doesn't have that unpack step. especially for the MSI. Like I build the binaries just using the CMake build step, sign them, then package, then sign the MSI. So like, I don't know if that's advantageous, but we definitely don't have to worry too much about that on the Windows side. But
I don't think
to be a
it's
centralized
I don't
pipeline.
think I don't think it
it's gonna-
matters.
Sure. Just thought I'd mention that, making sure that it's at least known.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to think a little harder on the Windows one. I don't know if there's a simple unpack and repack. Like I know how to unpack and repack on macOS.
You can. You should be able to do it. It'll just take some tuning.
I know how to unpack on Windows.
What I mean is, given that we already have all of the artifacts, you can unpack, just put things in the right place, and then recall pack. Like, it shouldn't be too bad. It's just
a little weird.
It'll need a little. It is a little weird. Yeah.
So if there's a way to have, it doesn't have to be a running script. Pseudocode is perfectly fine. If I could get procedure on what is needed and what happens for each signing procedure on the 3 major operating systems, I can make sure the workflow can accommodate everything we need.
Yeah, I can send you what I do on Windows. I have like a little bit of shitty PowerShell that does it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Sure, man. I'll make a to-do item for myself. And then I think we have gists, right? Alessandra or Seth, I think, didn't you have an aggregate of GitHub gists for the packaging steps for Linux and macOS?
For Linux and macOS, yes. And I can just pull those out of my head pretty fast anyhow.
Sure.
Windows is the one that I think you even sent me a Windows one, so I might have integrated it.
I did, but if not, like I'm happy to give it to you again. I've got all the stuff sitting around somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I have another related question. How do we do developer signing for things that need to be signed before they're releasable, like the endpoint security branch?
I think our theory on that was that we need to create, well, I mean me, need to create a profile and identity for CI, and then we can just stick them in the osquery CI. It's non-production, so it doesn't really matter if it's in that repo.
Okay.
I think that was our theory.
Charvel, what things do you need to accomplish that?
The CI being the Azure pipelines or the GitHub Actions here?
I guess whichever one we're going to maintain long term.
Both, doesn't matter. Like, I think I just need to send you, I think I need to create an account, send you credentials, create a profile using the host identifier that we've seen in Azure.
Yeah, so I think the host identifier, if it's static or non-static, I think that's one question that we need answering. The other kind of way to do that might be if there's an artifact on GitHub Actions, there could be a script to just, associate a GitHub username to a profile and sign it that way.
I don't understand that. I'm sorry.
So I can have my own identity that you can create for me as a developer role, right? On the Apple ID thingy. And on like my branch, I can just use GitHub Actions artifact and sign that to test that from the developer side.
Feels like, with that being a bunch of manual configuration for each developer.
Yeah, it is a little bit of manual step. The other is like just have a CI profile. But I don't know like who is responsible. Like the UUID, that if it's static, then that would be great. I don't know.
Stefano's initial tests was that it was pretty static. At least
Okay. Yeah, then I think this should work.
I think if it's not static, we don't have a good option here, right? Because I don't think we can be signing with a production key, so we have to be signing on something that's linked to a node profile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a mental note to check this again to be 100% sure that the physical host behind those VMs was changing. So, because a theory is that different physical hosts will have different host IDs, but yeah.
Okay, I think I'll try to dig a little bit deeper into this. I might need to ping you.
I'll try and actually respond on Slack.
No worries.
Alessandro, I assume you'll follow up with me for the various unpack, repack, signing nonsense.
Yeah.
Some other caveats are that notarization you should expect to take 15 minutes and be an asynchronous process. So submit.
Yeah, I remember this in our stuff. That sucks.
Just what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will matter, but I believe that we can code sign Windows binaries from macOS and Linux. I have found a third-party tool that appears to code sign correctly. So
that's useful.
I use it for the Collide side. I use it to sign, because Launcher gets cross-compiled, I sign Launcher with it, but packaging has to happen on Windows, so I just use the Windows native tools to sign Windows. So it's a little messy, but that's what I've been doing.
So this is what we have. The only thing we have for packaging on macOS. I'm not sure whether it is ideal or whether it can be useful to use it.
I'll try and read it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 3 commands in a make file that I use if I'm not using the stuff that's tied into an incredibly large pile of Go.
Oh, here's the script I hate. Notarize.sh.
Yeah, I've got that open in a thing. Yeah, it's only 100 lines.
It should be one line.
There's also a popular tool called XC Notary that kind of does all the heavy lifting.
Who wrote that one?
Let me find a.
So, I mean, I'll say this. There's at least a handful of tools out there. The HashiCorp folk released one, though I didn't like their Go code very much. I've got one buried in my Go code. But there are really only 2 commands. There's only one command that you actually need, which is a giant wrapper around XC run AL tool. It's line 97 of your Sinter thing. All of the other stuff is really just like, did you set all the right environmental variables before you called this? And then you invoke that, it'll spit back XML at you. Actually, you're parsing it as string logs, which is silly. But you can get it to spit back XML, parse the XML for the request ID, and then just pull the request ID. So it's all very simple, and then it's just, okay, well, if you have to call a shell script, what is the framework around that you want to use? So I wouldn't donks too much. Like, we can start with notarize.sh. We can start with the make file that I use. It's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and to this day, yes, I keep forgetting or not understanding how this whole process works. Every time I have to ask Mike.
Yeah, every time I have to go to my notes too.
Yeah, I've spent enough time doing it now that But it's there. Anyway, I like the make file I have. If you like make, it's easy. I like my Go code. If you like Go code,
Then we can use that. Super happy not to use shell scripts.
yeah. Like once I have to parse 5 command line options, I'd move everything into Go, and then I don't think about it again.
But this start to like, I bet it's just a couple of commands, and then you end up with all this stuff. And you regret not using something else like Python or I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone want to say anything else on code signing, or should we jump over to the next thing? Someone wrote down that we should think about moving and copying a Docker image.
Yeah, I did. So right now, Stefano is doing his magic on the Docker things somewhere. I don't know where it is. I was wondering if we should move it elsewhere so it's more easily accessible, while also making sure he has right access to it. So basically the container setting we have on GitHub Actions.
Is this the tool chain, or is this more than the tool chain?
No, this is the environment, the Linux environment to run the build on the CI. So, yep.
Sorry, I guess what I'm wondering is like, is this more than what would just be in the tool chain?
Yeah. So basically, we have a Docker file under tools CI in our own repo. It's an Ubuntu 18.04 uses that as a base and installs packages similar to what we have in the wiki guide. And then, downloads the correct CMake version, download the correct toolchain versions, and prepare an image ready to do builds, osquery builds. And again, the source you have it there. What I do is just building it with standard commands and pushing it to our Trail of Bits Docker instance. So that maybe we can, I guess, think to move it. Maybe GitHub registry, something.
That'd be my inclination. And, I think there are, so I'm happy to defer to you. Like, do you think this belongs in the osquery repo, in the osquery packaging tools repo, which I created just to hang random packaging tools in a new repo?
No, I think we can keep it with the main repo.
If you're happy putting it there, throw it there. And if you want to plumb in the GitHub Actions, great. I think it's all.
I just have to look. I haven't yet looked much into osquery registry, but I think it's just getting access to push on that.
It's all kind of magic and a little bit weird under the hood. I think I did this for Launcher. So there's a lot of like, it just kind of works, and there's a lot of like weird implicit stuff. And if you're doing stuff cross repos, it gets not worky real fast.
But I'm not sure we need it on other repos.
I'm just checking. Yeah, I'm only uploading. I'm only uploading it as an artifact. I bet I did this on a non-public repo then. Sorry, just looking through my non-public repos. Yeah, it's really easy. Tag image publish. Here, I'll just paste this into. Would you like it in Slack?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll put it in office hours. There you go. Nothing real fancy there. So yeah, it's pretty easy to just kind of do the right thing.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, I've put it there because Teddy was mentioning we should include CentOS. And there is no CentOS worker for GitHub Actions. We have to use a container.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I was thinking, I thought of adding that tool to the Azure pipelines, but I mean, I guess it's still definitely useful to test the user space. What I wanted to test was more the old kernel version, and because that's mainly what often may give issues to osquery. So to test if we correctly support like CentOS 6, for instance, but yeah.
If you run into any trouble or any GitHub permissions, or you want to stick it in another repo or something, I assume Alessandro is probably the fastest person who can help you. Feel free to also ping me if you need to, though.
Yeah, but I didn't want to help him.
Well, if he needs a repository, like you can probably
Yeah,
get permissions.
sure.
Like you know.
This time.
It sounds like we think we should just do the CentOS thing, but probably need to finish moving Docker images around, and I don't know, we'll do it sometime. Okay, and anything else on these topics? Should we talk about 4.6?
Is there a reason that it's not released yet?
We talked about it very briefly in the last meeting, and we were waiting for me to push it to our beta fleet, to the Clyde beta fleet, which I did. And I'm checking on where the state of all of that is in my little universe. Yes, so 4.6.0 is in the Clyde beta fleet, and I don't think we've seen any trouble with it. I'm just sort of thinking about double checking a couple of things. Our beta fleet is not that big in terms of Windows deployments, so, and that was the thing we were a little worried about. On the other hand, I know we get some machines in there. Let's query 4.6.02, 4.6.02. Yeah, why not here? So I've tested it on at least 2 Windows machines, and I think it works. I don't know, have other people tested 4.6.02 anywhere?
Deployment, I don't think. I mean, Trail of Best doesn't test in deployment, really.
I don't know if anyone else is running it anywhere, if it's kind of like just me right now.
Zach, have you tested it?
Only to a very limited extent.
I think we have plenty of people that are willing to test after it's been tagged. That's the problem.
I think we can probably, have we tagged it stable on GitHub?
It's pre-release. I don't know if that.
No, we can remove the pre-release tag. I think so. The biggest issue we had with so we don't normally have a very rigorous test process. The osquery team, does not have a very rigorous test process. Generally, it's kind of been, if it runs, it's good enough. The problem we had was that 4.6.0 on Windows didn't run. Like there was that linking error that is a little beyond me. 4.6.02 seems to run, so I would remove the unstable tag and call it good enough. Like, this is as much testing as we've ever given things.
Yeah, basically. You never know if you're ready. All you know is if there's blockers, and since we're not aware of any blockers, I think we can move forward.
Yes. Okay. probably push it to Collide stable soon. Which I guess might also be a little bit of Fleet DM stable. You're still borrowing, your launcher deployments are using our servers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
That's fine.
think plenty of folks are using Fleet with Collide's launcher.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that many not Collide customers are using our download servers.
No doubt. You said that traffic was getting expensive.
The osquery traffic is expensive.
Oh, is that what it is?
The Collide traffic might be expensive, but it is within, like, it's not on my personal credit card, so I don't really pay attention to it. The osquery downloads are on my personal credit card, and I need to do something about that.
When you talk about the osquery downloads, are you talking about like osquery.io/download?
Yes, and more specifically, package.osquery.io.
Okay.
So the osquery package repositories are currently being hosted on Amazon, which is linked into my credit card, which is fine. Like, I can float these costs, and I can always expense them to the foundation if I care.
Yeah, I was gonna encourage you to do that.
We do have some amount of Amazon credits, which were nominally slated for ARM64 development, but are being consumed by our package downloads because everything goes through the same organizational structures. I need to reach out again to, I think I did reach out to Fastly to see if I could get them interested. I still don't really know why they're not replying to my email, so something's a little weird there. Anyhow, I assume mostly no one cares about any of this. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I would just say I care that you're fronting the organization some infrastructure costs on the credit card, and in my eyes, that's exactly what we're raising money for. I mean, I'd love to do much more with that money, but this is a prime use of it given where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I need to, I'll expense it, or I'll probably expense it once we finish burning through credits. And even if I end up donating to us to cover what I'm expensing, it feels better to leave the paper trail there. So,
curiosity. Yeah. Is it the size of the packages or just the sheer number of? I mean
both.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't have the graphs in front of me, but we encourage people to set it up as a depackage and RPM package host. So every time someone runs an apt-get update or a yum update, whatever the commands are, they're going to hit that. Let's see. Last time I pulled these numbers, I've got them pretty nearby. Let me find the mail I sent.
And do we, if I remember, these sit on an S3 bucket, right?
Uh-huh.
I wonder if we'd benefit from fronting it with CloudFront.
We do, and not really.
Okay. Well, all right.
Let's see. So we run in November, when I looked at these numbers, we did 3 million requests a day, which represent about 40 gigabytes. So on the scale of CDNs, that's like peanuts. On the scale of Ceph personal projects, it's huge. So 3 million hits a day on those hosts, which is kind of neat. And that's going through CloudFront. And on the scale of a business, it's not that expensive. But again, on the scale of Ceph's personal projects, it's by far more expensive than anything else I personally run. So anyhow, it's all fine. And since you asked the Collide launcher downloads, I don't even track those. I don't have numbers on those. I need to revisit the servers they're going through because it's kind of overloading the Notary servers. And that's fine. It's just work. Well. So, okay. I'll go find 4.6 and tag it as stable. I'm hiding. And okay. Next item on our agenda, Teddy asks folks to test pull 6850. People have RPM-based Linux distributions. So don't know who is in a good position to do that, but
Yeah, for context, there's new, I don't recall which version specifically, but there's like new Fedoras mainly maybe that use a new database version for, RPM there uses a new database version, storage format, okay, which is SQLite. And currently we do not support that. And in fact, there is another issue talking about that. So yeah, Teddy started updating RPM, but then those updates were giving issues with opening the old format. So he brought in a patch from the newest librpm into our version so that we can kind of have both worlds. And so he wants to see if that still works. I think either in CentOS or newest Fedora, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're just kind of looking for a sanity check on different versions.
Yeah.
I can take a look at that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone asked about updating the macOS minimum version.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things here. One is that we can set the SDK and the minimum version separately. So the SDK can be pointing to the latest 11.1 or 15 or whatever, and we can separately set the minimum supported version. The reason we need the minimum supported version is so that we can use the availability macros that macOS provides. So it's basically a macro with which we can, during runtime, query like, hey, is this API available on Catalina or available on Mojave or available on Big Sur? And the OS headers basically give you an answer there. But in order for it to function, we do need the minimum macOS version set. We currently set that to 10.11 El Capitan, which is really, really, really old. I cannot even get a VM up and running because the installers are no longer signed by Apple. And anecdotally, weak linking, which is what's required for OS log and endpoint security and other frameworks, it doesn't run on El Capitan, but on Sierra and newer High Sierra, it does. So I have a PR up to move it forward. Yeah. And I want to make the case that we should probably move it forward to 10.13 or 10.14, because even like 10.12 and 10.13, they no longer receive security updates for at least a year.
I would rather lag as much as we can.
Any particular reason why?
Because there's always a very long tail on customer versions. So it's kind of just the reality we seem to live with.
I think at some point we have a trade-off. We have to support new functionality, and it's mutually exclusive with maintaining support for old versions. Then middle path, I guess, is that we have a way to build both versions, but they have to be separate packages.
So I am my own. These are my preferences. They may or may not be shared by everyone. I would like to avoid building separate binaries forever if we can. I think we have a lot of pain ahead of us if we start releasing multiple things. I have a pretty strong interest in maintaining compatibility with things as old as we can. We do the same thing for the libc versions. And I think the correct balance is to kind of be slow in changing it, but to be willing to change it for the features we want. So if 10.11 doesn't support what we need, but 10.12 does, we should probably just up to 10.12. We shouldn't jump ahead to 10.14. So that's kind of where my bias is. I think we've talked about this a couple of times as well. I know I've pulled some of these numbers before.
Yeah, and I don't know. The PR is open, but I don't know if. So we needed Teddy's feedback as well, I guess. Did he explicitly have objections to like 10 to 12 or anything particular? Has he shared them with you, Charles?
No. And the thing is, like, even on 10.12, like getting a VM put it up and running if you don't already have one is a real pain. Like finding an installer is a real pain. So kind of testing these assertions also takes a lot of time.
I think I heard a PR being referred to, and I'm just wondering if there's documentation in that PR of what's motivating the changes, because it seems to me that as we want to bump the version, maybe just discussing what we're actually gaining from doing that is will be helpful in understanding when it makes sense to move forward.
Sure, and we can pick an example. The OS log framework just became available on 10.15, which gives us programmatic access to the Darwin unified log system. I wrote the PR for that, and it's been up, and we've gotten some feedback on it. But you absolutely have to at least be able to, I think you need a minimum of like 10.12 as your SDK just to correctly wrap the available calls and not crash the build system. You still won't be able to actually get the useful data out of the table until you're running and deployed on a 10.15 system. And until we get to that and can build and deploy for 10.15, you won't be able to get any kind of unified log data integrated into osquery. You'll have to run an extension to sub-process the log utility.
So you're saying that if we bump to 10.12, that solves the issue?
I don't know if that solves the issue, I'll be honest. I am still digging through, I am going through the process of setting up old VMs and old SDKs to the best of my ability to see what's the minimum build that won't crash when we give it this code. Because right now I've broken the build completely in my PR, which I expected to, but I'd like to find something that when we get to rolling out on a 10.15 system automatically picks this up.
What kind of machine did you say you needed?
Machine for which?
There's some chance I have an El Capitan machine kicking around somewhere.
No, 10. Okay, yeah, El Capitan would help confirm that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
What do we need? What do we need it working
on? Sierra. At least Sierra, if not High Sierra.
I might have one of those. I'm like ducking out of frame as I look through the piles of test machines on my desk. I think that one might still be in the office, but I think I only have Mojave and Newer at home right now. But I feel like I have had some Sierra machines kicking around.
Yeah, but in general, I think Apple is also really aggressively pushing upgrades.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, for frameworks and the like, where you can only get to new frameworks on the newer versions of the platforms and the SDKs, which means that as we get these increased capabilities, we're going to need more support or better ways to handle this kind of situation coming up in the future.
I mean, in my eyes, the unified logging is probably worth bumping it to whatever we have to get that, but I certainly agree that it's worth putting in the effort to find the minimum.
I would be
It's-
happy to go to 1012. I would be very wary of going much higher. As I also just held up in chat, I do have a High Sierra laptop on my desk. So you want me to run an osquery binary on High Sierra?
I might see
Yeah,
if I can
I might-
document
I might-
build it for me.
Yeah, I might take you up on that too.
By all means, you know, keep poking me on Slack if I don't reply promptly to you. But I'm happy to, you know, download random binaries from the internet and run them. But yeah, there is a High Sierra test machine there. So we also had to bump up for the endpoint security framework too, is my memory.
Yep. And that's still pending. That's why the PR is up.
And that was also bumping to 1012, right?
Yep.
I think bumping to 1012 is totally fine. Like, we need it for the weak linking, and we need it for the availability macros, and we need it for unified logging probably, and we need it for endpoint security. So what else are we going to do?
I might try to get you to build a branch in the next day or two, Seth, on like High Sierra, or if you don't want to build it, I can just give you the binary and see if it works.
Can I build on Mojave and run it on High Sierra?
That would work too.
Okay, I don't build on that machine. It's just a
Okay,
test
yeah,
device.
that works.
Doesn't have a build chain on it.
Okay.
But if you want to just send me a binary, I'm happy to just, you know, run the binary. Like, do you want me to run a test suite, or just want to see if the binary crashes?
Just that binary doesn't crash because.
Yeah, just send me a binary. Send it by Slack.
Okay.
Same for you, Garrett, if you need that.
Thanks, will do.
Okay, next up, someone has noted that osquery at scale is coming up and that our illustrious Zach is talking. Go, Zach. I don't know if this is a discussion item or if I'm just going to go shunt this up to announcements.
Thanks. And Ted is speaking as well. And if anyone in here needs a ticket, I think I may have a free one to give away still, and more code was posted in general earlier today.
I don't know if I need a ticket. I was kind of assuming I would just watch the videos once they got released after the fact.
Makes sense. Folks, I have to run, but thank you for the office hours.
Thank you, Zach. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
We're at 2, and that was everything people wrote down. Anyone have any other questions?
He and I were just in the same meeting that just ended. So.
Okay.
And
Thank you all for your time.
Yes.
Or Mike,
Yes.
were you saying something or just goodbye?
well, you're wrapping it up, but do we want to discuss the goal of pre-built libraries as a thing that Stefano is starting to work on? Or should we save that for another time?
I mean, I think we briefly talked about this in other office hours. Yeah.
Let's defer it until you have something to talk about. Sounds amazing. You're awesome.
Just mentioning, I'm looking into it. First step is converting. We have three libraries that use their own CMake, and I'm converting them to use a written one, because in that way we can control the flags, be sure that they are built as we want. And then the next step is looking into preparing those the pre-built libraries framework in CMake. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Alrighty,
it.
well, I think we should end this. And thank you all for both your time on this Tuesday meeting and also all of your time doing osquery work. So it's pretty cool seeing all the great things happening. I guess a big thank you to Trail of Bits.
Thank you as well for being office hours organizing, being the organizer.
Okay.
See you guys later.
Later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.